Lila Harper was a fighter. At 22, she juggled 2 part-time jobs while studying full-time at university. Her dream? To become a writer. But dreams didn't pay the bills or tuition, and Lila often found herself wondering if she'd ever escape the endless cycle of work and worry. One rainy evening, after closing her shift at a small cafe on the edge of town, Lila climbed into her beat-up car. The windshield wipers squeaked as they fought against the downpour, and the heater sputtered weakly. She sighed, exhausted but determined to get through another day. As she drove home, something caught her eye. A lone figure standing on the side of the road. A young man, drenched from head to toe, waved weakly at passing cars. His sleek black car sat behind him, its hood up, steam rising from the engine. Most drivers sped past without stopping, but Lila hesitated. She slowed down and rolled down her window. "Need a ride?" she called out over the rain. The man stepped closer, his face lighting up with relief. "Thank you," he said, climbing into the passenger seat. Water dripped from his coat onto her already worn floor mats, but Lila didn't mind. Helping others came naturally to her, even when she had so little herself. "I'm Evan Cross," he said, extending a hand. His voice was calm, almost soothing, but there was an air of mystery about him. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain jacket, but carried himself with quiet confidence. "Lila Harper," she replied, shaking his hand briefly before focusing back on the road. "Where to?" Evan gave her directions to a nearby hotel, then leaned back in his seat, watching the rain blur the world outside. They exchanged polite small talk at first, but soon, their conversation deepened. Lila found herself opening up about her struggles, working long hours, fearing failure, and doubting whether her passion for writing would ever amount to anything. Evan listened intently, nodding occasionally. There was something about him that made Lila feel heard, like he truly understood her pain. When they reached his destination, Evan thanked her warmly and handed her a small wooden box. "Open it later," he said with a faint smile. Before she could ask what it meant, he disappeared into the rain. Little did Lila know, that mysterious box would change everything. As Lila drove home, her mind kept drifting back to Evan. Who was he? Why had he seemed so interested in her life? And what was in that mysterious box? She shook her head, trying to focus on the road ahead, but curiosity gnawed at her. When she finally got home, Lila placed the box on her desk, unsure whether to open it right away. Exhaustion tugged at her, but her curiosity won out. Carefully, she traced the carvings with her fingers, marveling at their craftsmanship. Then, taking a deep breath, she pried it open. Inside, she found a folded letter and a small key labeled Trust Fund Account Number 4827. Her heart skipped a beat as she unfolded the letter and began to read. Lila unfolded the letter with trembling hands. The handwriting was neat and precise, each word carefully chosen. Her eyes scanned the page, and as she read, tears began to well up. "Dear Lila, I hope this note finds you safe and sound. By now, you've likely realized that our meeting wasn't by chance. It was a moment meant to happen. Your kindness in stopping for a stranger speaks volumes about the kind of person you are. Compassionate, selfless, and full of potential." Evan went on to explain that he'd been watching her, figuratively, not literally, for some time. Through mutual acquaintances and subtle inquiries, he'd learned about her relentless work ethic, her passion for writing, and her struggles to make ends meet. He admired her determination and saw something special in her. A spark that reminded him of himself when he was younger. "I've set up a trust fund in your name," the letter continued. "It will cover your tuition, living expenses, and any other costs related to pursuing your dreams. This isn't charity. It's an investment in your future. You have gifts worth sharing with the world, and I believe removing financial barriers will give you the freedom to focus on what truly matters." Lila's breath caught in her throat. She read the sentence over and over again, struggling to process what it meant. A trust fund? For her? It sounded like something out of a movie, not real life. The letter ended with these words: "Don't feel obligated to repay me. Instead, pay it forward. Help others who need a chance, just as I'm giving you one now. Believe in yourself, I already do. Sincerely, Evan. Tears streamed down Lila's face as she clutched the letter to her chest. She felt overwhelmed, not just by the generosity but by the sheer weight of Evan's faith in her. No one had ever believed in her so completely before. Not like this. For a while, she sat there, staring at the box and the key inside it. Questions swirled in her mind. Why her? How did Evan know so much about her? And why would he go to such lengths for someone he barely knew? She picked up her phone and dialed the number written at the bottom of the letter. It rang twice before switching to voicemail. "This is Evan Cross," came his calm voice. "If you're receiving this message, please know there's no need to contact me further. Focus on your dreams, Lila. That's all the thanks I need." Hanging up, Lila felt a mix of emotions. Gratitude, confusion, and even guilt. Was she worthy of such kindness? Did she deserve this gift? But deep down, she knew Evan wouldn't have done this if he didn't believe she could rise to the occasion. That night, sleep eluded her. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed their conversation in her mind. His advice echoed in her thoughts. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her dreams weren't just fantasies. They were possibilities. The next morning, Lila woke up with a sense of purpose. She opened her laptop and began typing, a habit she hadn't indulged in for months due to exhaustion and stress. Words flowed effortlessly, pouring out of her like rain after a drought. She wrote about resilience, fear, and the power of believing in oneself. She wrote about Evan, though she left out his name, framing him as a mysterious figure who had reignited her faith in humanity. When she finished, she submitted the piece to an online magazine she'd always admired. Days later, they accepted it, praising its authenticity and emotional depth. Encouraged by the response, Lila kept writing. Essays, short stories, reflections. They poured out of her, each one inspired by the lessons Evan had shared and the gift he'd given her. With Evan's gift lifting her financial burdens, Lila threw herself into her studies and writing with a newfound sense of purpose. For the first time in years, she didn't have to worry about juggling multiple jobs or scraping together tuition money. Instead, she focused entirely on honing her craft and sharing her voice with the world. Her essays began gaining traction online, resonating deeply with readers who connected to her themes of resilience, hope, and self-belief. One piece, titled "The Stranger Who Believed in Me," went viral, touching thousands of hearts. In it, Lila described her encounter with Evan without revealing his identity, framing him as a symbol of unexpected kindness and faith in humanity. Readers flooded the comments section with messages of gratitude, many saying his story inspired them to keep chasing their own dreams. Encouraged by the response, Lila started submitting her work to literary magazines and competitions. Slowly but surely, her efforts paid off. Her short stories won awards, and editors praised her ability to weave raw emotion into every sentence. Publishers began reaching out, asking if she'd consider writing a book. At first, the idea intimidated her. Writing a book felt like stepping onto a stage she wasn't ready for. But then she remembered Evan's words, "Act despite fear." Taking a deep breath, she accepted the challenge. She poured her heart into the project, drawing inspiration from her journey, Evan's wisdom, and the countless struggles she'd overcome along the way. Meanwhile, Lila decided to pay Evan's generosity forward. She started mentoring other struggling students at her university, offering guidance and encouragement to those facing similar challenges. Together, they brainstormed ways to balance academics, work, and personal goals. Lila often shared Evan's advice about resilience, self-belief, and acting despite fear, urging her mentees to see setbacks as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Inspired by Evan's example, Lila also launched a small scholarship fund for aspiring writers. Using part of the trust fund he'd set up for her, she helped cover tuition costs and living expenses for students who couldn't afford to pursue their passions otherwise. The program quickly gained attention, attracting donations from alumni and community members eager to support the next generation of dreamers. As her career took off, Lila's confidence grew. She gave talks at local schools and community centers, sharing her story and encouraging others to chase their dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. Her message was simple yet powerful. You don't need everything figured out to start moving forward. Take one step today, and let that lead you to tomorrow. Despite her growing success, Lila never forgot Evan. She often wondered where he was and what he was doing. Occasionally, she tried searching for updates about him, hoping to find some clue about his life, but nothing ever surfaced. It was as if he'd stepped back into the shadows, leaving behind only ripples of change. One evening, after a particularly inspiring talk at a high school, a student approached Lila with tears in her eyes. "Your story gives me hope," the girl said softly. "I thought I was alone, but now I know there are people like you, and maybe even like that stranger, who believe in us when we don't believe in ourselves." Lila smiled, feeling a lump rise in her throat. In that moment, she realized Evan's impact extended far beyond her. His act of kindness had created a ripple effect, inspiring her to inspire others. And through her actions, his legacy continued to grow. Years passed, and Lila's name became synonymous with perseverance and compassion. Her books topped bestseller lists, her workshops transformed lives, and her scholarship fund supported dozens of students each year. Yet despite all her achievements, Lila remained humble, always crediting Evan for sparking her transformation. What she didn't realize was that Evan's decision to help her wasn't just about changing her life. It was about proving that belief in others can create waves of positivity far greater than anyone could imagine. Little did Lila know her journey was far from over. The same kindness Evan showed her would soon come full circle, reminding her once again of the power of faith, generosity, and human connection. Years later, Lila Harper was no longer just a struggling college student. She was a renowned author, speaker, and advocate for dreamers everywhere. Her books had inspired millions, her workshops had empowered thousands, and her scholarship fund had helped countless students break free from the chains of financial hardship. Yet through it all, she never stopped thinking about Evan Cross, the mysterious young man who had believed in her when she doubted herself. Though she'd searched for him over the years, Evan remained elusive, almost mythical. It was as if he'd vanished after that rainy night, leaving behind only the ripples of his kindness. But Lila didn't need to find him to feel his presence. Every time someone told her that her story had changed their life, she knew Evan's faith in her was still alive, carried forward through her actions. One day, while giving a talk at a university, Lila received an unexpected message. A young woman named Mia Rodriguez, one of the recipients of Lila's scholarship fund, approached her after the event. Mia handed her a small wooden box, identical to the one Evan had given her years ago. "I don't know how to thank you," Mia said, her voice trembling with emotion. "This scholarship saved me. I wouldn't be here without you." Lila opened the box to find a heartfelt letter from Mia, alongside a key labeled, "Trust Fund Account Number 7291. The note explained that Mia had set up a fund to help other struggling students, inspired by Lila's example and Evan's original act of generosity. Tears filled Lila's eyes as she realized what had happened. Evan's gift hadn't just changed her life. It had sparked a chain reaction, inspiring others to pay it forward in ways she couldn't have imagined. Mia's gesture proved that kindness wasn't meant to stop with one person. It was meant to spread, touching lives far beyond its origin. That evening, Lila sat alone in her apartment, holding both boxes side by side. One represented the beginning of her journey. The other symbolized its continuation. She thought about Evan and the quiet confidence he'd shown that rainy night. Had he known this would happen? Had he foreseen the ripple effects of his generosity? Lila smiled softly, feeling a deep sense of gratitude, not just for Evan, but for everyone who had been part of this legacy. She realized that true wealth wasn't measured by money or success. It was measured by the impact you left on others. And Evan's impact? It was infinite. Determined to honor his spirit, Lila expanded her efforts. She partnered with schools, nonprofits, and community organizations to create programs that supported not just writers, but dreamers of all kinds. Artists, scientists, entrepreneurs. Anyone with a vision and a need for encouragement found a home in Lila's growing network of support. Her work became a beacon of hope, reminding people that even in their darkest moments, there were strangers willing to believe in them, just as Evan had believed in her. Little did Lila know, her story, and Evan's, would continue to inspire generations to come. Because sometimes all it takes is one moment of faith to change everything for one person and for the world. Years later, Lila sat at her desk, staring at the two wooden boxes that had shaped her life. One was old and worn, its carvings faded from years of handling. The other was newer, a mirror image of the first, symbolizing the legacy she'd helped carry forward. Outside her window, rain fell softly, a reminder of the night Evan Cross walked into her life and changed everything. She often wondered where he was now, whether he ever thought about her or knew the ripple effects of his kindness. But deep down, she realized it didn't matter. What mattered was the lesson he'd taught her. That belief in others has the power to transform lives. Lila picked up her pen and began writing. This time, it wasn't an essay or a story. It was a letter addressed to Evan, though she knew she'd never send it. Dear Evan, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I want you to know your gift changed more than my life. It changed the world. Because of you, I learned to believe in myself. And because of that, I've been able to help others believe in themselves too. Thank you for seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself. Your faith in me will live on forever. She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside the original box, sealing it shut. Then she turned back to her laptop, ready to finish her latest book, a tribute to dreamers everywhere. As she typed the final lines, Lila smiled softly. Somewhere out there, Evan might still be watching, or maybe he'd moved on to help someone else. Either way, his legacy lived on through her and everyone she touched. The rain stopped, and sunlight streamed through her window, illuminating the desk where the boxes rested. Lila took a deep breath, feeling at peace. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to spark a lifetime of change.